episode, we'll be doing a budget mini big brake upgrade on the Lancer Ralliart. It's a pretty simple upgrade. I'm not gonna say it's big brake, but it's a mini big brake. So what we're doing is using the 2G Eclipse GSX calipers for the fronts, the 95 to 99 Mitsubishi Eclipse GSX all-wheel drive. They are a dual piston caliper. It's pretty much bolt-on. The only one mod you got to do would be grinding. You have to grind the brake line holder, and I'll show you that in a second. You need the calipers, the bracket holder, the rotors, and the brake pads for the 2G Eclipse all-wheel drive GSX. The GSTs are single piston, so remember it's all-wheel drive GSX Eclipse or Eagle Talon TSI all-wheel drive. Okay, so I ended up doing this whole thing with a spare used caliper that I had the first time, and this happened. Try to loosen the bleeder screw there. It ended up breaking, and I had to start all over again. So you'll probably be seeing clips of the actual footage, the first footage that I did with it, and now with the new caliper that I ended up purchasing. So keep in mind that. So you'll probably see my shirt might be different or whatnot, but same process. But I'll be showing you hopefully mostly of with the new caliper, which will make it easier. And I'll go through the whole process of installing it and bleeding it and whatnot. So keep that in mind there, right? Alright, take out the wheels. Stick the wheels under there. Nice, some CD bolt grease. Oh, that's another project. Some grease on there. Okay, first things first. We're going to take out these bolts here with the 17 mil. Take out the bracket bolts, another 17 mil. So the brakes aren't too bad, but the car was driving like ass. I first thought the clutch was slipping because I'd have to give it so much gas for it to go. Then to find out when I came to try to replace the brake pads, the piston wouldn't go in. I'll show you an example of how it's not going in. So you can push this side in, as you can see, but this side over here, she won't even move at all. There's the issue right there. That caliper there, the boot tore. It's pretty much all rotted in there. So I can't push that piston back in. So what you're gonna do is remove your brake line there. The only modification you gotta do, like I said, is on the Lancers, the brake line is a lot thicker. So you just have to modify this bracket here so it fits. That's pretty much it. Then what you're going to want to do is, so that there is brake line pinchers. So you can use this. If you don't have that, you can use a small vice grip. Probably put a rag in between, but don't pinch it too hard. The reason why I'm pinching it is so that the brake fluid doesn't keep pouring out. So stop the brake fluid from pouring out. So if you use a vice grip, just put a rag in there and pinch it lightly. Don't crush it, because if you crush it, you're going to ruin the line inside, the liner. So you can press it on there lightly, start loose, back it off. If you see it dripping, just go a little bit tighter until you see it stop dripping. But I'm going to be using the pinch line tool to not allow brake fluid to come out, or as little as possible. So it just pinches the line so you don't have constant brake fluid coming out. So I'm going to take the brake line out, bring it over to the bench and compare it to the existing, and try to match it. Alright, so 14 mil. That one out. So you can see I pinched it enough where it's not pouring out. So that's good enough. Okay, so take this out. So we'll clean that up later, but I'm gonna go show you how to do the modification. Here we have is the GSX caliper. I ended up buying a brand new one, or remanufactured, rebuilt one. I've been previously running this setup for the last 12 years on the Ralliart, but this one here ended up seizing and I can't get the piston to push back. Okay, like I said, everything's bolt on. The only one modification you got to do is, if you see right there, the bracket there, how small it is, so that your brake line fits in between here. So the only modification is you got to grind it down. So this is my old one that I did. So you got to grind it down pretty much that wide so the brake line fits in. And also you got to shave down this little edge here where it slopes down, again for the brake line. Here it's pretty much squared, so you got to bring it down to that level there and widen up this bracket here for the Lancer brake line to fit in there. So it's going to be using a Dremel. You can use a grinder too, but you just got to be really careful. So it's getting there. So still have to do a little bit more and then grind that edge sloping down. Alright, let's keep going. Okay, so I think that's pretty wide enough. The brake line's about the size of my pinky and it fits in there, so it's okay. So now I'm going to be working on the slope over here, getting rid of this edge here. And remember not to grind in too far because the brake line has to sit flush on the surface here with the gasket. If it's a little cut, you might get a brake fluid leak, so make sure you don't touch the flat surface on here and start to slope it down this way. There, so it fits there, but it's not completely flush on this surface here. Not completely flush on that surface there. Still have to grind this little edge here because of, I guess, the girthiness of this brake line here. So that angle right there is where I have to cut a little bit more. Ended up grinding a little bit more, a little step there. So I just put duct tape there so dirt doesn't get inside. So get test fitted on there. It's hard to see, but it looks pretty flush right now. So I think my cuts and grinding is good. Now that I know the brake line fits, I'm going to be painting those calipers black to match the other side. Just regular caliper paint is fine. Then once it dries up, we can mount it and I'll show you the final install, and that's pretty much it. It's a pretty basic upgrade. Literally grinding this down took me about 10-15 minutes. So 10-15 minutes each side, half hour to grind this down. Plus, and then you want to paint it, give it like an hour or two to dry, and then mount it. Really easy upgrade, and it makes a bigger difference in braking power. So, because the rotor is actually a little bit bigger too. All right, let's get to painting. We're gonna paint. So again, just using regular caliper paint, nothing special. Holds up pretty well. I do about 5 light coats, so that way there's no dripping. So I'm just gonna turn on the heater so they can dry up quicker. Just gotta do my second coat. Now it's my third coat. Number 4. Ooh, it's hot. Number 5. So the calipers look pretty dry now. Been on here for at least an hour with the space heater. So now we're gonna put them on the car. Okay, so just clean that up. Put some anti-seize on there because it gets all rusted. Put the new rotor on. There you go. Again, this is the 2G bracket, so this will just go in, and up with lube. That way the bracket doesn't get stuck on there. Again, Canadian weather sucks, everything rots. And then you have to see these two. These brackets in. $17 mil. Okay, so brake pad in. The inner has the scratch pad, or the scratch warning, so it allows you to know when your brakes are low. So before putting your caliper on the car, you gotta fill it up with brake fluid, so that way it doesn't take as long to bleed the system after. Try not to spill it all over your freshly painted caliper. Like so. Shake it around. Let it fill inside the cavity. Try to get as much air out as possible. This will make it a lot easier to bleed it later. You're also going to want to lubricate your sliders. With that little rubber piece there, that's just for noise so it doesn't rattle back and forth. That goes on the bottom part. And that's a 17 mil. And now we can add the brake line. So taking off my tape here. Your new calipers should come with new pressure washers. So one goes at the top and one goes at the bottom of your brake line. So now make sure your brake line is not all twisted when you put it in. You got your banjo bolt, which is a 14 mil. And don't reuse your crush washers because it will leak. So that's one. So you got one at the top and then the other one at the bottom. You gotta make sure your brake line sits in that groove you just cut. thread it in. Really tighten your banjo bolt now. There you go, make it nice and tight. Make sure you don't see any fluid leaking. Before you start bleeding the brakes, pop the hood and open your reservoir fluid. It'll help the flow of the fluid come up quicker. And if you need to top it off first, right to the top, and then go open your bleeder screw. You have to get the air out of your caliper, so we're gonna open this bleeder valve, and since I'm by myself, you're just gonna let it, they call it gravity bleed. So what you're gonna do is you're just gonna open this up and you're gonna let the brake fluid come out and let it keep going for 15-20 minutes. Then you're gonna go inside, pump the brakes to see how it feels. And always make sure your bleeder screw is at the top of the caliper. So don't mix it up, putting the left caliper on the right side. Because if you do that, the bleeder hose will be at the bottom. You don't want it at the bottom, you want it at the top. It'll say R at the top for right. And if you have it the other way, it will say L on the driver's side or on the left side. So always make sure your bleeder hose is at the top of your caliper to bleed it out. So the bleeder screw on here is an 8 mil. Depending on who remanufactures, it could be 8, it could be 10, it could be 11 mil. So mine's is 8 mil. So to catch the fluid, the brake fluid, all I did was make my own little water bottle with a hose, and that's just gonna go on the nipple here, like so. And then it's gonna open my bleeder screw. And all you do is just let it flow out by itself, but always make sure to check your brake fluid reservoir so it doesn't go dry, and keep topping it up. If you have someone to help you, you can have someone sitting in the car. This is a lot quicker. Have your bleeder screw closed. Get them to pump the brakes 3 or 4 times. Get them to hold it. Once they're holding it, you open the bleeder screw. They'll keep holding until you close it, and then you tell them to pump again. And that'll get a lot of the air out of the system a lot quicker. But since I'm by myself, I'll let it gravity bleed. Or if you have a vacuum pump to suck out the fluid, which I think I have, so I can show you that. They're pretty cheap to get. That also helps. So here's the pump I was telling you about. So it comes with the pump, this little canister to hold the brake fluid, and the lines. So what you're gonna do is you put the one side on the bleeder hose, other side on the pump. Open your bleeder screw, and you start the pump. Make sure your canister is not twisted or overflowing or upside down, and then you just suck it out. Again, don't go too much because you don't want to empty out your reservoir, so always keep an eye on your reservoir. You can see it fills up a lot quicker. Then you close it up because my canister is full. Make sure you don't let any air in. Close it. As you can see, my canister is already full. And then you come here and top off your brake fluid reservoir. Make sure everything is dry. So when you pump your brakes, you know it's new fluid if it is leaking. So I'm gonna go pump the brake. So there's nothing leaking, and my brake pedal feels really firm. If it feels spongy or if it feels solid and then it slowly keeps going down, that means there's still air in the system. So you got to continue bleeding it and then try again after a couple times, and until it feels solid and firm. And that's it. So that's pretty much your install of your caliper. You put your cover back on, put your tires back on, lower the car, and take her for a test drive and make sure she's good. Make sure your fluid's full. Close her up, close the hood. Okay, and that's it. That's your mini big brake upgrade on your 04 to 06 Lancer Ralliart. Again, it wasn't that big of a job. Same procedure, even if you're just doing the regular caliper single piston, you don't have to grind it, obviously, but the same procedure of replacing it and bleeding the system is the same thing. I've taken this car to the track many times with this brake setup, and it's a lot better than the stock single piston calipers. Thanks for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed that and something you guys could consider as a budget upgrade. If you can like and subscribe to this channel, that'd be great. If you guys like this type of content for DUIs, yeah, it's small stuff like this. It's simple stuff, and I like to share and help anybody in the community. If there's anything else you guys want to see, just let me know. Just leave a comment down below. I have a video on doing the timing belt on the Lancer, which is right here. Or if you'd like to see any other projects that we have going on, like the Eclipse and the Evo, click here. I'll see you guys on the next one.